Welcome back everyone for another Evertale video. So today we are going to be doing top 5 changes I want to see in Evertale. So let's get into it, starting off with number 5. Fake ads. So fake ads on Evertale have been just going crazy recently. Like, it's trying to advertise this like Pokemon like horror game, which in concept it sounds really cool, but if you actually do play Evertale, you know that that's not actually the game that you're installing. And I know I heard that some people like before, when Evertale used to be pay to install, like I think it was $1 or something, but it's just, I guess it's just pretty much just trying to trick people into buying and installing the game. I don't know if it's still $1 because I downloaded it when it was free, but I think it's just like really scummy practices on the game developer's part. And I think that like you would want to take pride in something that you actually made and not hide it and try to pretend that it's something else. And that doesn't really instill much confidence in like new or existing players, in my opinion, of like, hey, this is the game we're trying to give you, but we're not actually proud of it and we're trying to pretend it's something else. And unless the game developers are just making this giant big brain move where they're actually going to implement this horror Pokemon-esque thing, I don't think it's gonna work. Like, I know there's like a new mode that's supposed to come out, and there's still technically the online story that might, but just based off of like look at this amount that's flying, that does not look like anything I've ever played in Evertale. Unless you actually have a plan on making a game mode like that, just stop with the fake ads and just take pride in the game that you did make. Number 4. So when you're trying to explain to someone the game that you play with, so I know it looks bad, but it's not what it looks like. The game hasn't always been like this. You know you're in for a ride. So number 4 is stop making every single character super lewd, ecchi, especially the lollies. Like, it took forever just to get Theo. Where is he? He's up here somewhere. I thought he was up here somewhere. There he is. Yeah, it took us forever to get Theo, and this is like the first male since 2.0, if I'm correct. And I think 2.0 was February 21, and his banner was July 22. So that's like 1.5 years, and within that time we've had like 37 or 38 new female characters before we got one male. And I was actually gonna try to summon for him just like on principle alone, but I just didn't feel so good about his no strike drain and just the synergy, because like, I don't know, it just felt kind of weird and I wasn't sure where to put him exactly. And like, I remember back then, like, swimsuit, like Ludmilla was like the lewdest thing that we had. But compared to now, like, this is nothing. Like, this is safe compared to what we have now. And like, when like family or friends ask like, what kind of videos do you make and what's the game about, it's an awkward conversation. So like, I think my change that I'd want is just tone it down a notch. Like, it doesn't feel like a game I would feel comfortable like playing in public anymore. Like, I'm a guy, I like the boobas as much as the next guy, but just way too much. Like, you can still have waifus that are hot but fully clothed and just done in a tasteful manner, just a more refined taste, if you will. Like kimonos. Kimonos are awesome. Like, they're nice, they're pretty, they're classy. Or just even like dresses and stuff. But like, certain characters, like that's not a wedding dress. Like, that's something you would not. I don't know what kind of wedding you going to, but that is not a normal kind of wedding that I've ever been to. Like, yeah, that is not a family-friendly wedding that you're attending. Oh my god, and then if you guys remember the initial release of Water Colin, I think she straight up had a camo toe. And they, like, someone pointed it out on the Reddit, and then they ended up censoring it. I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this to lollies, let alone just characters in general, let alone lollies? And it's just like, I think there are good designs for small characters or young characters. Like, it's them growing up to be adults, it doesn't make it that much better. It's just, why are you doing it to begin with? Like, why? Like I'd say Klee from Genshin Impact. That's a good child character. It's a cute character that you just don't lewd. Like, she's cute, she's innocent, she's like a little terrorist that has bombs, and it's great, it's fantastic. And like, she's just adorable and must be protected. Like, not everything has to be sex appeal. Like, if you go back to before 2.0, there are just so many cool, badass designs. Like, all the dragons. Like, there are so many dragons that were just so cool. And then you can have like edgy characters if you want that are still really cool. Like Cyrus is a really cool design. Like, there are other routes that you can take that still appeal to your demographic of probably male dominant players, as I'm assuming, just based off of how lewd everything is now. But yeah, like, I just think that like, the non-stop characters that have been releasing has just been frustrating and just uncomfortable. And like, I think that if they went back and added more of like the cool characters that are more like badass, like, that would be a good thing. Like, it would add diversity, and diversity is a good thing. Keep the waifus. All I'm saying is just tone it down a bit. Like, make something that's like, you can have nice waifus that are still dressed appropriately and dressed nicely and classy, and just something that you could actually play in public. And for number 3, I want to say rebalancing older characters. Because the thing is, like, we know that Evertale can do this, and they actually have done this with some previous characters, like Light Riz. Her counter shock used to be just a shock. It would shock everyone, and it didn't have that built-in counter mechanism. And let's see what else we have here. Like, there are a couple characters that got kind of changed around, like Akatsuki. I remember he only had burning entry, and if he got rid of that burn, he had no other way of getting burned back. So they added ignition attack, which helped him as well, because that actually gave him another way to get burned, which was definitely a much needed change for him. And let's see who else changed. Druk, his burn frenzy, I think you still need to have defeated one character or two, but I think it also required you to have one more fire unit in order to actually use it. So you had to have a fire unit on his team as well as him killing something, which is like a lot of conditions to unlock, plus 2 spirit for 400 damage attack, which was it was rough. And Astrid, her regeneration used to be like Druk's, which was just burn regeneration, and she also didn't have the she didn't have intense burn. It was just a quicken burn, because enrage wasn't a thing back then. that was only introduced with the Diabolos, the dragon. Where is he? This one, yeah. That's when enraging mechanics were introduced. So like they have changed around old characters in the past. So I think that like certain units would definitely benefit from additional changes and just trying to kind of rebalance some characters just so that the power creep isn't as incredibly obvious. I'd say like Norza would be a easy character in terms of his regeneration. I think that if they got rid of the requirement of needing one other storm ally to get that heal, I would actually summon, like I would summon for him, because like even with that requirement, I think he's like one of the highest ranking male units, if there are any male units left that are highly ranked. But he's a good character, and I think if you got rid of that storm requirement, I think he would be even better, and I think it would definitely make him more viable. And especially if you were playing beforehand, you don't want your older characters to just be completely outclassed by the new ones. So I think if they added in some rebalancing, it would be a much better for older characters and possibly returning players. Number 2 is draft PvP. Honestly, draft PvP is probably my number 1. Like draft PvP is my favorite game mode by far. That like I've been playing Evertale for a long time. Like it was my favorite game mode. This video footage is from older video that I took for a guide. Pretty much like as you can see, it's like you just pick 3, like 1 out of 3 characters. You have your rares, your SRs, and your SSRs, and they're all up to level 60, so that there's some balance. And your rewards, you can just get soul stones. Back then they're like different kind of evolution materials, so it's changed a bit since then. But yeah, it's pretty much you draft your own team. It's somewhat random, there's some RNG element to it, but what's so good about it is that it doesn't matter like what your team is. Like you could be a free-to-play, you could be a whale, you just get to play all these different kinds of characters that you don't normally use. And the other thing is like you could use 2 of the same kind of character. Normally that's not a thing, but like it just opened up so many new possibilities and so many new things that you could just try out and play around with. And it was just so much fun. Like it was hands down my favorite game mode that I played in Evertale. Like it was just so cool. Like it made me want to build teams around characters that I've never tried before, and that it's what kind of made me want to build multiple accounts. And that's kind of why I have multiple accounts, is because of this game mode. And I think Evertale would actually benefit from it as well, because the more characters you get to try out, the more that you want to use, and the more you're going to summon, and that's profit. And best of all, it was live manual PvP. Real-time PvP, none of the whole AI just auto skip BS. It was like real-time PvP. It was so much fun. There was strategy. It's not just throw your wallet at it. I have more SSRs than you do. All my characters are level 200. Like, SR characters mattered. Rare characters mattered. There was actual like strategy involved, and it didn't matter what your current account was at. And it gave you motivation and gave you drive, and like, hey, I want that. I want to try summon. I want to try build that character. I want to try to build this type of team. It was just so much fun. I loved the draft PvP so much, and if I could, it'd be my number 1. And then if you're interested in watching some of the old draft PvP footage, it is on my channel, like on some of my older videos that you can find. And so for my honorable mentions, I'm just gonna put pretty much all of Alliance War and War of the Realms as I don't really care for it being kind of gated by you need to be only the top 50 guilds in order to play, which is kind of just blocking out a good majority of the actual player base, since top 50 is not majority of people. And I think it'd be great to be able to like open it up to more people and just make it more user friendly for beginners and whatnot. The reason why it's an honorable mention is because I don't really know how they would implement it. The number one change I think everyone wants is to bring back live PvP. Like, I think that live PvP that's the end game content. That's why people stick around after and continue to play the game. And when 2.0 took away live PvP, I think they lost a good portion of the player base, like the ones that are like actually active anyways. And I was actually debating if I should quit as well when it first happened. And it became heavily pay to win, and it's just whoever has more money. And to add insult to injury, the AI auto battle is just painfully stupid. Like, it hurts. Like, auto battle took the strategy out of a strategy game. Like, who does that? Like, why? Why would you do that? What makes this different from the draft PvP is that you actually get to use your own units. You get to use the units that you just put all that time, put all that effort into, and actually get to see them shine. And you get to really push your limits in that real-time PvP. At this point, I think it's just universally accepted that everyone would love to bring back the real-time PvP. I think the only thing is just I'm not really sure how they would implement it is all. Because before they had like cost limits, which I personally liked because it used more strategy of using SR and R rare characters. And like, I just remember poison teams having those needle pest and haunt shrooms that just poisoned two enemies, and they were guards, and they were like the most annoying things ever for my burn team. Like, they were good, they were actually good, and they were actually useful, but it was an actual strategy. And because they cost so little bit, they were actually very useful. You couldn't just put 8 SSR characters and 8 SSR weapons on one team, because that would go over the limit. And I think that actually helped make the entry into PvP much easier for like lower level, just newer players. Like in this footage, I only had 1 SSR. I was not doing well, and I was a noob. I made really bad decisions. I was a noob, but you could still play the game. Like, you didn't need to be a longtime veteran to play the real-time PvP, which was I like that a lot. But in today's Evertale, battalions are much longer, because just a normal game with 8 characters could take a while, especially with people who kind of take a little bit more time to make a decision, or if some people are just trying to stall it out and just drain the timer just because they know they're losing, which could get really annoying. Like, it used to be 8, and that could take a while, but now with battalions being 20 characters long, I'm not really sure how long that battle would actually last. That would be too long, I think. At the same time, I don't know if they would actually remove units, since with battalions, the more units you have, the more summons you need to do, and the more summons, then that's more money for the company. And I think they definitely want to keep players summoning as much as they can, just for their own profit. So I think ideally, maybe they could bring back the 8 character cost limit, timers, etc. Whether they actually do it or not is another thing. And I know there is one more game mode to still be announced, so there is a chance, but I'm not too optimistic after the whole Alliance War and War of the Realms came out. Like, I know everyone was just hoping, please, real-time PvP, real-time PvP. So there is a chance, but I'm not too hopeful. I just don't want to rely too heavily on something that might not happen, and still be able to enjoy the game, even if it doesn't happen. So those are my top 5 changes that I would like to see in Evertale. Comment down below if you could change something about Evertale, what would it be? And if you could bring back real-time PvP, how do you think it could work with the current format of Evertale and the battalions? Like, do you think you could shorten it or keep it the same length and do something that wouldn't make it drag on for like way too long and just make it unbearable? Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe if you can, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.